The year was 3782. Humanity had long abandoned Earth, its cradle reduced to a lifeless husk after centuries of war, pollution, and unchecked greed. The migration to the stars had been both a triumph and a curse. The United Solar Dominion, USD, once the beacon of human civilization, now lay in ruins after the Century War. An interstellar conflict fought between the ruling Dominion and the rebel faction known as the Severed Sun. The war had no true victor. The USD crumbled from within, while the Severed Sun fractured into warring subfactions. Now, scattered remnants of humanity fought over dying worlds, lost technologies, and the fading dream of unity. Amid the chaos, two names would carve themselves into legend: Joe Miles and Selene Ares. Joe Miles had once been a decorated officer of the Dominion before defecting to the Severed Sun. Now, he was little more than a ghost, a fugitive drifting between dead planets and war-torn stations, haunted by the massacre of Meridian, a Dominion world where he had been ordered to exterminate an entire city of so-called traitors. He carried the weight of 1,000 sins. Joe was hired by scavengers to infiltrate the ruins of an abandoned warship floating in the Eros Belt. They sought forgotten weapons, but Joe suspected the ship contained something more, something worth killing for. When he reached the core chamber, he found her. Selene Ares was not supposed to be alive. Official records claimed she had died years ago, executed by the Dominion after leading a rebel cell. Yet, there she was, preserved in cryostasis, her body suspended in eerie luminescence. Before Joe could process what this meant, mercenaries stormed the ship, killing his crew. With no choice, Joe revived Selene and fled. She awoke screaming, eyes filled with both fury and despair. She knew him. She hated him. "You should have left me in the dark." Selene Ares had once been the heart of the rebellion, the symbol of hope for those who fought against the Dominion. But she was no longer a leader, just a relic from a war that had already consumed everything. As Joe dragged her across the stars, pursued by bounty hunters, warlords, and Dominion assassins, she came to realize that the war had never truly ended. Their escape was anything but smooth. The first bounty hunter struck on the rusted outpost of Torin 7, where they were forced into the Undercity's maze of tunnels to avoid the cybernetically enhanced enforcers sent to claim Selena's head. In the lawless sector of the Red Drift, a warlord named Raxa nearly sold them to the Dominion, only for Joe to gamble their lives in a high-stakes game of void dice, winning their freedom through sheer audacity and a well-placed blade in the dark. But it was on the ice moon of Varkas where the Dominion nearly claimed them. A fleet of stealth frigates ambushed them, forcing Joe to crash land their stolen ship into the frozen wastes. For 2 days, they fought off relentless squads of Dominion shock troopers, low on ammunition and supplies. Joe was wounded, and for the first time, Selene had to be the one to protect him, wielding scavenged Dominion rifles with lethal precision. They barely escaped Varkas Prime alive, hijacking a freighter and jumping into the void just as the Dominion fleet razed the entire colony to the ground. Through it all, trust was an afterthought, survival the only priority. But between the close calls and the blood-stained battles, the lines between enemy and ally blurred. Joe saw the fire in Selene's eyes, the same fire that had once burned in him before the war had stripped it away. And Selene, for all her hatred, began to see Joe as something more than just the man who had helped destroy everything she loved. Hidden within her memories was knowledge of an ancient weapon, a secret that neither side of the war had ever uncovered. The Dominion had discovered the device centuries ago during their expansion, but quickly realized its potential to destabilize their empire. But Selene remembered. Joe didn't trust her, and she didn't trust him. But trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. Amid the blood and fire, something neither of them expected began to take root. An understanding, a fragile connection forged in suffering. Their pasts were stained with violence, their hands soaked in the lives they had taken. Yet, in the cold vacuum of space, in the moments between battles, between the hunts and the escapes, they found warmth in each other. It started with stolen glances, Selene watching Joe as he cleaned his wounds, his hands steady despite the fresh bruises across his ribs. He caught her looking more than once, the defiance in her gaze giving way to something deeper, something she wouldn't admit. The first time they kissed, it was after a battle, adrenaline thick between them. She pressed him against the cold steel of their ship's corridor, their breathing ragged, bodies still burning from the fight. It was fierce, desperate, a clash of teeth and hunger. Nights in the stolen freighter became something else entirely. The anger between them melted in the heat of whispered confessions, hands roaming across battle-worn skin, scars traced like old stories. They found solace in each other's bodies, an escape from the nightmares that plagued them. Each touch was both a demand and a surrender. Joe had never known love that wasn't built on loss, and Selene had never let herself need someone. But in the quiet moments, tangled together in the dim glow of the ship's failing lights, they found something raw and real. It wasn't just lust, it was survival, a way to remind themselves they were still human. The war would take everything from them, but for now, they had this. And neither of them wanted to let go. The stolen freighter, christened The Fractured Dawn by Selene in a rare moment of dark humour, drifted through the void like a ghost. Its hull bore the scars of countless skirmishes, and its engines groaned under the strain of constant use. Yet, it was their sanctuary, their prison, and their only hope. Joe sat in the pilot's chair, his fingers dancing over the console as he plotted their next jump. The Dominion was closing in, their reach extending further than he had anticipated. Selene stood behind him, her arms crossed, her gaze fixed on the star map projected before them. The tension between them was palpable, a mix of unspoken fears and the weight of what lay ahead. "We can't keep running," Selene said, her voice low but firm. "The Dominion will find us eventually. We need to strike back." Joe's jaw tightened. He had heard this before, but the fire in her voice was different now. It wasn't just anger, it was determination. She had a plan, and he wasn't sure he wanted to hear it. "Strike back with what?" he asked, turning to face her. "We're two people against an empire. We don't have an army, a fleet, or even a damn base of operations." Selene's eyes narrowed. "We have something better." She stepped closer, her presence commanding. "The weapon I told you about. It's real. And it's not just a weapon. It's a key. A key to something the Dominion has been hiding for centuries. If we can find it, we can expose them. We can turn the tide." Joe leaned back, his mind racing. He had heard whispers of the weapon before, fragments of stories and legends. But Selene spoke with a certainty that made him uneasy. "And what happens if we find it? What then? Do you really think the Severed Sun will rally behind us? They're just as broken as the Dominion." "They'll rally," Selene said, her voice rising. "They'll rally behind the chance to end this war once and for all. But we have to act now. Every second we waste, the Dominion gets closer to finding us, and to finding the weapon." Joe stared at her, searching for doubt in her eyes. He found none. She believed in this, in the possibility of redemption, of victory, and for the first time, he allowed himself to hope. "All right," he said finally. "Where do we start?" Selene's lips curved into a faint smile. "We start with the past. There's a place, a hidden archive on the planet Zahi. That's where the Dominion stores their most guarded secrets. If we can get inside, we can find the coordinates to the weapon." Joe raised an eyebrow. "Zahi? That's deep in Dominion territory. Getting in won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing ever is," Selene replied. She reached out, her hand brushing against his. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." Joe looked down at her hand, then back up at her, The connection between them was undeniable, a bond forged in fire and blood. He nodded. All right, let's do it.